Pastor Scott, how you doing this evening? How will you expand the $100 that's Help America Vote Act for the community education of our residents?
Thank you very much. Let me just say that one of the things that you can do is use it for voter outreach and education. I think that we've seen limited outreach and education during this election cycle, more so than any other cycle. Very few people really know there's a primary going on, and if you go to the polls, the numbers are very, very low. And the reason for that is, one of the reasons is because those dollars have not been used, in particular in the minority community. So I would make sure that we have staff in place to be able to get out in the community, to educate the community, as well as doing other things through the media, the press, and so forth. So those dollars will be used in terms of voter outreach and education, and we would not turn them back or return them to the federal government. We'll use every dime.
Question from Mr.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. My name is Rich Glorioso. You know, when I decided to run for this seat, I was talking to Betty Reed, because I'm state representative and I was in Tallahassee at the time. One of the concerns she had was outreach. And as I've gone around and met people, the thing I keep hearing is there's lack of outreach, lack of outreach, lack of outreach. And it's not only in your community, it's in all the communities. It's been a lack of outreach in all the communities. And so we need to take the $100, and there's dollars out there for that, and we need to get into our schools, our businesses, and our neighborhoods, and use those dollars for outreach so we get people out. The polls, I went and voted yesterday. I was the only one in the poll. I was appalled that there was no one voting. And that's because of lack of outreach. If you go to the website, it tells you what the hours of voting are, but it doesn't tell you what days you can vote. So outreach, that's what we have to do. I spent 27 years in the military defending our Constitution. We've got to help educate our young adults how important voting is and how important our elections are in our country.
Good evening, Mr. Glorioso. What special strengths do you believe you bring, or you could bring, to the supervisor of elections office?
I think my strongest strength is leadership. In my Air Force career, I was a group commander when I retired, and then squadron commander, flight commander. I understand what leadership is. I have a master's degree in management, master's degree in mathematics. I'm big into total quality management, i.e. continual process improvement, where you get together with the customers, the people in the community, as well as your employees, and look at every process, especially outreach. We'll talk about outreach again. You can't do it from the supervisor's office. You need to go to the community and talk to the people in the community and find out what kind of outreach you have to do. What needs to be done in those communities, and then you put that process together, you make a plan of how you do your outreach. I have not seen any plans, any long-range plans. I was a long-range planner, strategic planner, and short-range. You have to have a plan on how you're going to do it. And in the off-election years, after January 1st, when I take over, my job will be to get out into the communities and spend time figuring out what kind of outreach we can do, whether it's getting people out to vote or education. Thank you very much.
How are you going to take over when I'm going to be there? I think my strength, one of my strengths is leadership, but I think more important, I bring experience. 14 years of experience, elected official. I have the opportunity to represent District 3, this community, and the entire county. 14 years as an elected official, 10 years on the Board of County Commission, selected by my peers to serve 3 times as chairman of the board, 4 years on Tampa City Council, and elected 3 times to serve as chairman of the board by my peers and my colleagues. And so I bring that kind of experience to this whole process. But more importantly, I serve on the canvassing board. The canvassing board of Hillsborough County is actually the legal board that oversees the election process. Okay, so I had 4 years of experience of doing that, going there during election day and prior to, and being there to make sure that the election process is done correctly and to make sure that votes are counted, because the board itself determines in terms of write-in votes and so forth. Thank you, sir.
Sean, if it's possible, give me the liberty after I ask this one question. I don't have to begin with. Another question came from the audience. So I'll start with this question here and start with Rich. Knowing the tragedy of on not only the national scene, but the local scene as well. And we applaud the Attorney General for his efforts to make sure that every right of Americans that want to exercise their right to vote is done so. So the question would be, how can you assure the residents of East Hillsborough County that protection of every eligible voter's right will be exercised and be afforded?
Well, as I said, 27 years defending our country and our Constitution, defending the vote is just right there. How do we do that? We make sure that the voter rolls are pure. We spend time in the off election years. I don't know why all of a sudden it's a last minute thing. We spend time in the off election years finding out if we have illegal voters or non-eligible voters on the rolls, how they're getting there, and how do we get them off, and how do we stop that? We have a lot of felons. I spent in Tallahassee, I helped fund a parole commission to deal with some of our felons and get them through the process. We have a lot of felons that have the rights reestablished to vote and have not been notified. We need to figure out how that happens and how do you solve that. And I can't tell you I got the solution right now. We have to look at the problem. But those are the kind of things we have to be looking at, because the vote is the basis of our entire country, our entire republic. Democratic Republic is based on the ballot box, and we need to protect every vote, because a non-eligible voter should not negate your vote.
First of all, I understand the importance of voting. I came through the era as a young person during the civil rights movement when there were those who were fighting and struggling for the right to vote. And so therefore, my history and background helped me to understand the importance of voting and making sure that every person who is registered to vote has the right to vote and to protect that vote. And so therefore, I understand it from a historical standpoint. Secondly, by being on the canvassing board, it gave me a first-hand view. Even the votes that are the provisional ballots that are cast, that canvassing board determined a lot of those provisional ballots, whether they're going to be accepted or not. And so I bring a lot of experience already in determining how to accept votes or reject votes or protect votes. And so that's very important. So my experience play a major role in my historical background of understanding those who fought and died and went to jail for the right to vote for every American citizen.
Part two to that question in relationship to voters' rights. We've just learned that about 13,000 individuals have their rights have been restored but don't know it. What would you do about the rights restoration process?
I think it's important that we notify those persons their rights have been restored. I think we need to make sure that they be notified. We get that list and send them out information to let them know that they have an opportunity to be registered to vote. Again, it's about voter education. It's about voter rights. It's about outreach and letting people know that they have this privilege because their rights have been restored. Part of the problem, again, with 2000 election now is education and outreach. There are so many people now that don't even know it's an election. There are so many people that don't know that they have the right to vote, the opportunity to vote. And so I think education and outreach, and once those personal rights are restored, let's get them to send that to us so that we can make sure that they have the right and they know that they can come now and vote again by registering.
The lack of notification is probably the biggest problem we've had. We need to work harder to figure out how the Parole Commission sent out the letters, because they're the ones that send it out. Working with Representative Reed and Representative Roussan, we actually funded that organization to be able to do these kind of things in the future. Every vote, every person who has the right to vote should be registered. Every person who's registered and legally can vote should have an easy and convenient way to get out there and vote. And going back to what we talked about earlier, that includes outreach, notification. As we're all saying, nobody's going to the polls. There's a lot of people who don't know there's an election going on right now. And it's a vital election. Our country depends on it. Our local politics depend on it. Our state politics depend on it. And we've got to get everyone out to vote.
It's Glorioso. If there are dollars available for outreach, how come those dollars haven't been used and the outreach has not taken place?
I think you'd have to ask that to the individual that didn't show up tonight. I mean, I could talk for another 2 minutes about it. I think it's appalling that those dollars have not been spent. I think it's appalling that people don't know this election. I think it's against everything we fought for. Everything everyone in this room fought for and believes in. One of the first bills I passed in Tallahassee was putting civics back in our classrooms. So our teachers understand what this little piece of paper is right here. It's called the Constitution of the United States. You gotta know what's in that. You gotta know what your rights are. If you don't know what your rights are, you don't know what you lose if somebody takes them away from you. I've been in a lot of third world countries in my military career. I've flown all over the world. And I've lived in a third world country. I lived in the Philippines for 2.5 years, where there aren't any rights like we have here. Our rights are so precious, it's unbelievable. And our kids don't know it. And that's a shame. And we've got to teach them. We've got to work for the future so that everyone in this country gets a fair break to live the American dream, because that's what we're all sitting here thinking about right now is how do we live the American dream? And that's what we have to do. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that about actually the person who's not here. My wife was out. I mean, since the people want to give him credit for all the accomplishments, so I agree with that. But let me go a step further. No matter what you feel about Buddy Johnson, I have to give him credit for the work he did in getting out the information to the community and pushing hard. Now, he did that. He had a staff, he had liaisons in the African American community, in the Hispanic community, and he worked hard to make sure that communities were represented on his staff, and also put dollars in the community, in the papers, radio. He spent the money to make sure that people were aware, and that's what we have not seen in this election. And so I believe that we have to look at that and use those dollars to educate every community, educate, have a staff that's reflect the diversity of Hillsborough County.